so much. I want to bring in the RNC's Chief Strategist and Communications Director, Sean Spicer. He is here with me in Houston for the big debate. Sean, I don't think it's a shock to you. I'm not the first to tell you that Donald Trump is the front runner in this campaign right now on the Republican side. I also don't think I'll be the first one to tell you that the RNC's had a complicated relationship with Donald Trump over time. There's been a lot of give and take. There's an article in Politico this morning which suggests that the RNC chair, Reince Priebus, is saying that, you know what, Donald Trump needs the RNC. The RNC is going to have some influence on Donald Trump going forward because the RNC is frankly necessary. And you, Sean, are quoted in this article saying the bottom line is no nominee can win without the party. What do you mean?
Well, look, no nominee can win without the party. Reince Priebus has put 4 years of data and field staff out there building this party, making relationships, ensuring that whomever that nominee is prepared to go. The nominee right now, candidates seeking our nomination, rather, are out there fighting a primary battle. They're focused on winning the early states, the 11 states that are up on March 1st. The job of the RNC is to think down the road, to think what do we need to do to win that general election, to get the 270 electoral votes necessary to recapture the White House in November. And what that means is that the RNC is the only entity out there that's been doing that, building the ground game out in African American, Hispanic, Asians, evangelical communities, building up the data that we have, the relationship. So when that nominee gets decided by the voters, we're ready to go and help him secure a victory in November.
If that's Trump, he will need you and you will be there.
But if it's anybody, and that's what I think we were trying to get, I think that the Politico story is false in the idea that we were leveraging anybody. It's a relationship, and you don't go into any relationship and tell anybody you will do this or that. That's false. What I do believe is important is that, like any relationship, we need the nominee needs us, and we're going to be proud participants in helping them win back the White House.
The last nominee on the Republican side is a guy named Mitt Romney. He ran in 2012. You may remember him.
I do.
He says that Donald Trump should release his taxes. All the candidates should release their taxes. What's the RNC's position on that type of transparency?
Well, I think generally all candidates do release their taxes at some point in the cycle. It's up to each one of them to decide when and how and where.
But you think transparency is a good thing?
Well, look, it's always, I mean, it's like medical records. At some point, they all get released. It's up to the candidates to decide what the appropriate time is in the process to do that.
All right. Let me ask you about the Washington Post, because the Washington Post seems to have a bone to pick with the RNC. They wrote their second editorial in just a few days about the fact that they think the RNC and party leaders need to stand up to Donald Trump. Let me read you a quote from today's editorial. History will not look kindly on GOP leaders who fail to do everything in their power to prevent a bullying demagogue, they mean Donald Trump, from becoming their standard bearer. Your reaction to that?
I think the Washington Post completely misunderstands what's going on in America right now. The idea, the RNC is to be neutral in this race, to ensure that we have the resources necessary to help the nominee win in November, not to pick winners and losers. Under Chairman Priebus, we've consolidated the calendar to ensure that more voters have their voice heard in this process. And what the Washington Post doesn't understand is that it believes that if people in Washington don't agree with what the voters have decided, we should go in and undermine that. That's just simply false. The idea is that the voters choose. That's what's wrong with this country right now, is that too many people in Washington are telling voters that they're wrong, that Washington knows best. And what we have right now is a process where more people are helping to decide our nominee. That's what's supposed to happen. The other thing is, for the Washington Post to sit here and criticize our side when you have a self-described socialist as a leading candidate for the Democratic Party that takes this country. I mean, think about that. We're a capitalistic society. We're the most amazing country on earth. And they sit back and say, oh, it's no big deal that you have a socialist that wants to take this country in a vastly different direction. And I don't really put too much stock in what the Washington Post editorial page has to say.
You talked about the consolidated calendar, which is something that the RNC, the Republican Party, is doing a little bit differently this time than it did last time. How hard does it make it for candidates to come back if they fall behind early? They're falling behind by a little right now. After next Tuesday or March 15th, they could be behind by a lot. It's hard to come back after that.
Well, what the RNC did this cycle, unlike more, is ensure that there is a level of proportionality. So when you win a state right now, there are the phase up until March 15th is proportional. There are a few states, there's only 10 of the 56, which includes all the states and territories, that are actually winner-take-all states. So you can't just rack up states and run away. You've got to earn it state by state by state. I think that process ensures that more voters have their voice heard, have their vote count. So I think there's a difference between actually accumulating the 1,237 delegates necessary to win the nomination and getting to a point where you become the presumptive nominee, where you've amassed such a lead that others probably can't catch you.
Yes or no? Do you think to that that point where there might be a presumptive nominee?
Look, we have 11 states going on March 1st, 509 delegates at stake, and then between March 1st and March 14th, another 963 delegates. I think the voters will make that decision. If they award them to one candidate decisively, then yeah. But if they don't, then I think we're going to go a little bit longer, probably into April.
Sean Spicer, great to have you here. Thank you for being with us. Thanks for all your hard work.
Thanks. And hopefully, I don't know why at the warm locations, Kate gets stuck in New York. I think we need to make sure she's in Miami. That's only fair.
I can promise you right now, you will see Kate Baldwin in Miami.